I think we're back. We'll give YouTube a moment. And then we should be able to get started. Let's see how we're doing. All right, we'll give YouTube a minute. Let me erase this. And I think we're live. All right, I am Drew Badger, the founder of EnglishAnyone.com and the English Fluency Guide. Welcome to another live video here on YouTube. This is a continuation of the previous video. I wanted to try doing something different. So that one is just a very focused lesson, my just fluent in 15 minutes series of videos that I'm trying now and seeing if they're helpful for people because that kind of learning has certainly been helpful for me. It is the focused review of things, and you review things in different ways, and it becomes even better if you get more voices and you can hear more examples and rather than just reviewing things and repeating them again and again. So when I often speak with people or they tell me that they have trouble understanding people, or the specific topic of this video, which is how can they know so much and yet struggle to speak, the answer is typically they don't know the language as well as they think they do. And so we're going to be talking about that in this video. How to solve that problem, what's actually going on, and why people struggle with that. But even people who have private or personal teachers, they will still struggle with things because it's just one speaker and usually a slower and clearer teacher rather than all of the real variety that you get with the real world. All right, so if you have any questions or comments, I will try to keep my eye on those if people have anything pertinent or if they have any specific questions. But nice to see everybody there. Thank you for joining me in the previous video as well. So that in that video, we're talking about a story called The Mitten. So we reviewed this one over here. So I recommend you go back and watch that one or that video after this one. But it gives an example of naturally varied review. So let's see. I want to have, so let me just get right into it. Today, we're going to talk about how you can know some information or how you can know so much English but not be able to say a lot of that. And I wanted to begin with just a quick example from driving. So if you imagine we're in a car together over here, I guess I'll make this the like American style of driving over here. So I am on the, actually now I'll be on the right side since I'm in Japan. I don't want to confuse myself. So in Japan we drive on the right and the passenger is sitting on the left over here. So we'll just put the wheel on this side and imagine we have one person. You're looking at the back of their head like this, and then maybe you are a passenger over here. So you're looking out, you can see the road in front of you. There are the lines in the road as you're watching. And if you think about understanding languages versus speaking, we'll put speaking over here, and then we'll have listening over here. So these are actually two different skills, and I think this is a really simple way for people to understand why. And often people will ask me, well, why can I understand so much? Well, it's actually a different skill. And so you can see it this way. When you're just sitting and watching someone else drive, even if you have you could have someone drive you somewhere 100 times, like let's say my children, were taking them to school or something like that. Or even if you've been in the car with someone else and you see them taking the same route, so route. So route is the way you're going, the car route. So if I'm driving in a particular direction and you can see that, you can easily maybe follow what's going on, but there are so many things you're not thinking about. And the driver is actually the one who's being active, and they're thinking about things, and maybe they have to move out of the way or they have to go in a different direction if the situation changes. And so it's actually a lot like real communication. When you're just listening or watching to movies, there's actually far less doubt because you might understand the general idea of something. Maybe I can be explaining something and you don't understand exactly what's happening there, but like you don't understand every specific word, but we can understand like the general idea. And so in that case, there's a lot less doubt because maybe it doesn't matter if you understand something completely or not. But when you're speaking, there's a lot more room for doubt and there's a lot more worry that happens because you really want to make sure every individual thing you're saying is correct. So if right now you can follow what I'm saying, this is like being in the car listening to me speaking because I'm doing all the work. It's a passive process for you, even if you call it maybe active listening, where you go back and try to pay more attention or focus on particular things. It's still a lot less worry for you as the listener unless you have to respond to what I'm saying. And so in that case, that's where we really start worrying or thinking, oh no, did I understand exactly what some explanation is or something like that, especially if you need to understand something for work. So maybe some kind of professional situation where there is still some kind of specific example or specific information you need to hear. So this is the main difference. There's again, like I could be explaining a whole thing over here, and you don't understand every word. So there may be like a few words or some things. Maybe you understand a lot of it, but you don't understand everything 100%. But you get the general idea. So I say, hey, tomorrow we're going to the store and we need to buy some things for a trip. And you get the general idea, even if you can't say that like I did, okay? So listening and speaking, two different skills, all right? So that's the basic idea. So how do we correct this problem and how do we make sure that we balance this out? So most people, even myself, my listening ability for Japanese is going to be higher than my speaking ability. So even if I can speak very well, there will always be more things I can understand. So the point is to continue increasing both of these at the same time. So your listening will naturally improve as you get more examples, but you have to be more strategic. You have to be more thoughtful about how we improve the speaking, especially if you don't have people to practice with. But let me know if this idea makes sense. I really want this to be clear for people. But again, the basic idea is if you're driving, if you're in the car with somebody and you're watching them do the driving or you're watching, the road or something like that, there's a lot less to think about and you can deal with more doubt. So if you experience more doubt, it's okay. But when you're speaking, you really want to have no doubt at all. So if you want, someone, imagine, flying a plane or driving a car or a bus or something like that, you want that driver to be 100% confident, not 50% confident or 80% confident. You want to know you get on an airplane, like that pilot is going to be very qualified, very confident, like feeling very strong about what they're going to do, all right? So when we're in a conversation, we worry about making mistakes with individual words or grammar points or things like that, but that's the reason there. So you have a lot more room for doubt and a lot more to worry about when you speak, but when you're listening, you don't have to think about it so much, all right? So we're gonna talk in this video about how to solve that problem and typically why this, we understand here why it happens naturally, but I really want to make it clear why exactly, like kind of the way people learn that causes this. So we're going to look at 3 different ways that people learn typically, and then we're going to show you like what are the best things to do if you want to build a vocabulary that you can remember and also one that you can use fluently. So let me go back and check chat very quickly. Today is a little bit different because I finished another video right before this one, so hopefully those people can come join us in this video as well. That one, I just wanted to do a quick 15-minute video one that was just focusing on that particular story. So again, if you have not seen that video, go back and watch the previous one, the Fluent in 15, about the vocabulary building machine. All right, so H. Ray says good morning again, and PR Marcelo says good night. So here you would say good evening, unless you are going to sleep right now. So right before bed, before you go to sleep, that's when we say good night. But if it's just nighttime in the evening, maybe dinner time or after that, you would say good evening. So that's the difference between these two situations, good evening versus good night. Jose says, hello, teacher. Olympia, nice to see you there. My dear teacher, always excited. Joseph says, good morning from Darjeeling. Gloria, nice to see you there. Access says, hi, folks. Saul says, hello, everybody from Indonesia. Annette says, is it my age or not understanding something today? I don't know how old you are, Annette, but if you have a particular question about something I'm not being clear about, let me know. So if maybe I'm not explaining something well, or I could explain it better, or give you a different example, that's what I'm here to do. So let me know. Sabir says, why international call center guys speak fluently after 6 months? They start with a script because they just repeat themselves, and you said repeating doesn't make you fluent. All right, so that's a good question. Now, speaking for a very specific situation, probably a lot of that, like the call center person might be repeating a script, but all the people they're listening to are saying different things. And so the person is in fact not just repeating a script, they're actually getting real life examples and experience from lots of people. So let's say I work at a hotel. It's the same kind of idea, although maybe it's a little bit slower. So each person who comes to the front desk to check in, maybe they will say, yes, I'd like to check in today. And I will say, hello, welcome to the hotel. And may I have your name and your credit card or something like that, whatever the process is. I actually used to work at a hotel, so I know how this works, but it might be a little bit different for each person. But what's happening here, and this is actually, I gave kind of a lesson to a woman who was trying to improve her English. So she actually works, I think this was a while ago. I don't know if she still works at a hotel. But I basically explained to her, this is an example of naturally varied review. So the first customer comes up, so you are behind the counter over here, and the customer comes up and they say hello, and you have maybe some kind of script or something. So a script like, hello, welcome to McDonald's. How may I help you, or may I take your order? So there's a specific thing that people are trained to say, and they repeat that again and again. But the training is not enough. You have to be prepared for what the other person says. And so in this example, we're going to be having a pretty limited number of things that we learn. And this is why, just like when I covered in this book, we're only talking about this particular situation. So it's not that repetition is bad, it's just that, number one, it's boring, and number two, it doesn't really reflect the way life is normally. So again, in a hotel, the training will happen where, like, this person, the staff person at the hotel, will be trained about what to say. They have a script. Okay, when the person walks in, you say this, you say, hello, how are you? May I have your credit card or your name or something for check-in? And they will have that conversation about this particular thing. So you will probably not have a situation where, like, they're talking about, I don't know, food, or, I don't know, going grocery shopping, or, I don't know, riding bikes, or, animals or something like that. It will be a focused conversation that still has some variability to it. All right. So as you learn there, or as you work as a server or something like that, there is a range of, usually a limited range of things that people might talk about. What do you say when you go to the front desk of a hotel? It's check in, check out, maybe asking some questions about local things like where is a good restaurant, or other things like that. And usually that information is prepared, and because people have seen these things again and again, that's how they improve. But notice it's not exactly the same. It's not really repetition, it's naturally varied review, because each customer is going to be different. Even if the staff tries to say the same thing, it's not going to be the same thing, because the customer, the guest, or the patient, or whatever that person is, they are going to say something different. You don't know what they're going to say exactly. They're going to maybe say some slightly different words. Now, in my guide to fluency, I actually talk about this, how exact same situation. I was learning Japanese by listening to people order food at a cafe. So like a coffee shop, they're ordering drinks or food. And each person, there's a general situation. So we're not learning about everything here. This is not about science or technology or business or something like that. There's a typical specific general range of things that we might be talking about. But within this range, you're going to have, people have different voices. If I go to Starbucks or some coffee shop, there will be 20, 30 different things I could order. And I could order a coffee and customize that coffee. So it's not exactly the same. But as you get this varied review, so it's not just repetition. Repetition is when you practice reading a speech to yourself. But when you have to interact with another person, usually it's going to be within a context. So this situation of checking in at a hotel or ordering food at a restaurant or something like that, that is the context. And there is always going to be some variation or variability within that situation. So someone says hello or good afternoon or hopefully you're having a nice day or something like that. They might express themselves a little bit different. So in the case of the call center employee, a lot of the improvement they're getting is coming from the other people they're listening to. So they're recognizing the patterns they hear. Even though they may have a particular script, they're still getting all those examples. All right. So yes, it's a good example, but I just want to make it clear, if you only repeat things, number one, it's going to be boring, and number two, it's going to be more difficult for you to understand things in the real world because you're not really prepared for all these different things. Okay, so it's much better like for hotel training rather than just having, and this is like a role play kind of thing, role play. So you pretend to be someone checking in or pretend to be someone doing whatever, but the real world is going to be a little bit different. So if you could watch 20, 30, 100 people checking into a hotel, you would get a very good feeling about how that works. All right. So this is exactly what happened to me when I was sitting at a cafe and paying attention to different people. So Japanese people ordering food. I have a particular context. I know they're not talking about like science or, some other money or random things like that. They're here to order some food. So the conversation is going to be around that. Now, you might have some people, maybe the staff knows the customer really well and they say, oh, like, how are you or how is your family or something like that. But in general, most people are just going to come, they order their food, and then, there's some variation there. But again, it's very important to understand here, repetition is not going to prepare you as well as seeing lots of native examples. That's where the naturally varied review comes from. All right, good question though. So Joe says, hi Drew, I was wondering what's your opinion about teachers with certificates such as TOEFL, but is still teaching English as a second language? I think I don't do that, and I don't recommend people learn with teachers like that, but it depends on what your goal is. For trying to improve conversational fluency, even learning with just one teacher, whether they have a certificate or not, you really need to get many examples of lots of different natives in a structured, systematic way. That's going to be the fastest way you learn. So the kind of lowest level, we'll talk about that in this video actually, about these different levels of learning or the different ways of learning vocabulary or grammar or whatever. But in general, people who are still teaching English as a second language or helping you learn that through that language, that's like the lowest level we'll talk about. So it's not as good for building fluency, but if you need to learn something very quickly to pass a test, then that's something you might want to do. Just understand that might hurt your ability to speak if it trains you to think and translate in your head. Syed says, sir, do you offer any class for speaking, specifically public speaking? No, I don't, but there are probably people that teach, you can find right here on YouTube about public speaking. Maro says, I don't understand when I started to be a conversation with American people, but I understand my teacher. You don't understand. I see. So you don't understand regular, everyday American English speakers, but you understand me, I'm guessing. And so usually what happens, like we gave the driving example before, I'm speaking very slowly, clearly, or maybe not too slowly, but much more slowly than I normally do when I'm in a regular conversation with people. But it depends on the situation. So I was visiting I'll tell you this story in a minute, but on Monday, I went to do some translation work. So I was doing kind of simultaneous translation or like back and forth translation. A friend of mine has a barber shop, and one of his staff wanted to learn how to do braids and dreadlocks and things. So we went and saw another friend that knows how to do that, but that doesn't know a lot of Japanese. So one woman doesn't know English really, and the other doesn't know Japanese. And so I was translating for both of them. But she was asking me lots of questions about how to learn English as well, so she could just kind of learn it directly. But we talked about that same thing, where we're really trying to make sure people can understand things within the language itself. And if you get exposed to more natural examples of things, like I gave, again, like watch that example, go back and watch this video, the one right before this one, talking about the mitten. But again, the naturally varied review is going to prepare you much better, because you kind of hear things from one teacher, but you don't know things as well, or you're not as well prepared for how people actually speak in the real world. So you want to get both of those things. It's good to have a good teacher, plus people who can help you understand things. Abdu says, skills, thinking any kind from there to skills. Ryzen says, am I late? Where can we put it? I don't understand. You mean thinking? Oh, it's like, you mean thinking about things? Like that's if you're talking about a different skill? Well, I'm only talking about specifically for language learning, but in general, the better you understand something, the faster you can think about it. And that's why if you learn through translations, it's going to slow you down. All right, so Annette says, I'm always happy to see you. Today I'm seeing you for the second time in a row and on an unusual day. Yes, I'm trying something different. I thought I would do both of these videos on the same day, but that way I can make one focused video and then one where I'm talking and explaining things a bit more and answering more questions from people. So Access again, nice to see you. By the way, the mitten video was awesome. Can you do more similar videos in the future? Thank you. Yes, if people enjoy these Fluent in 15-minute ones where, again, we're tightly focusing on something and then reviewing it in different ways. So I'm trying to help you understand, giving you both fluency triggers and naturally varied review. So helping you understand things like a native, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in this video. Saurabh says, let's see. We as Indians are fortunate that Englishmen rule over us and taught us this beautiful global language. Thank you for strengthening our English in terms of communication. Your videos help. Yes. Well, I'm from America, not the UK, but I guess you're welcome. They kind of ruled over us too for a little bit, but then we said no, we're not going to do that anymore. Denise says, hi, Professor. And Tim says, Shanghai of China. I can't read that, but something, let's see, maybe about sounds or something. Yeah, I could read that in Japanese, maybe, but that's in Chinese. Native speaker, very limited vocabulary. Is that what that means? Or if you're translating that, let me know what you mean, Tim. Marceliana says, hello from Brazil. All right, Joe says, thank you. Ildo, nice to see you there. Long time no see. Let's learn some English with you. It's my pleasure. Fasby says, thanks for everyone. Hello from California. I think grammar helps us to build better structure that says our sentences. Well, I mean, yes, obviously you want to learn grammar, but it's much better to learn it by understanding from situations rather than just getting grammar rules. Let's see. So I'm from China who can speak Chinese Mandarin. Okay. Let's see. Dancy, if I got that correctly, says hello. Igor says, Drew's helped a lot to become a better English speaker. Thanks a lot, man. It's my pleasure. Just a random channel. Where is a good place for beginners to start expanding their English vocabulary? Watch our beginner series. You can start there just to understand the vocabulary, but then I would also watch content for natives, so young children. Just to answer this question for people in general, I really think a lot about like organization of the language, but you can think for yourself. Just using the example of the Mitten book that we read a little bit ago. So you begin with some kind of content, and at first it's like a tree. This is the trunk. You really want to make sure you understand what's happening for that content. So we've got like the tree, and as we understand that, now we can start getting variation of that thing. So when I did a moment ago, so before this video, I did the video about the mitten. So the first example is just helping you understand the context or the situation for each page. And then we're going to look at vocabulary for that. And then we might look at different ways people might say that vocabulary. So, or you might have a situation like if I want to describe this situation here, like put the marker in the cap, put the marker in the cap. Or I could say put the cap on the marker. All right, put the cap on the marker. All right, so there are different ways I could say that. Then we could also hear different people saying that same vocabulary. Okay, so I could hear different people, or I could hear the same person at different speeds, but you can see how this becomes like a much wider tree as you go out and start buying, excuse me, not buying, I'm trying to read the chat at the same time. As you start exploring more and understanding the vocabulary more deeply. So when people typically learn, it's typically like kind of review. Like this, it's repetition of the same thing going up in one way. And so this is more like real life, and that's why I teach this way. I want to give you different examples of how people would normally speak. So you're going to get different speeds, different voices. Men and women might pronounce things or say things differently. You might have faster, like maybe casual speech, or maybe slower, more professional language, or something even for adults and children. There's all of this natural variety in the language, and if you learn with that, then you will start speaking with that too. You will understand it better, and that's what's going to help you speak fluently. So you will feel very confident about that information. But what most people typically do is they get, it's kind of like growing a tree, but you're not prepared for all this other stuff over here. Okay, so naturally varied review, what we're talking about in this video and what I gave in the example of the Mitten book, that's what I'm talking about for that. Let's see, Jefferson says, hello teacher, how are you? I just got home from work. Well, welcome. Superstar says, I can interact with Native Americans, but when watching movies, difficult to understand dialogues. Any suggestion? For those, either you need a teacher to explain things, or you need to figure that out for yourself. That's the only really two ways you can do that. So that's why what I do for Fluent for Life, I really want to make it easy. Most of the time that people spend learning is time wasted where they're trying to find information or understand information. But if you have someone just do it for you, everything is all ready. Okay, we're going to teach you this and help you understand it very easily. We can go very quickly through a lot of information and get you fluent much faster because we're not wasting a lot of time. All that time, like I spent all that time preparing everything. But if you're doing it by yourself, then you're going to have to spend time just like me. If I'm reading something in Japanese, then I have to go back and get an explanation or try to look up the word or get a teacher to explain something to me. So that wastes a lot of the time in language learning. Let's see here. So Tim again says, where I hear this one, where I buy. I still don't understand Tim. Alejandro, greetings from Mexico, and anyone from China. Are you talking about, like, let me know if you have a specific question about the course, but now that we understand this, let me talk about these three different levels. We've already talked about one of them. For trying to understand vocabulary so you remember it well and use it fluently. That's really the goal. So we want to understand many things. We want to be prepared for different situations. And so the first level of this, what people typically do, this is where they are going from like translations. We'll just put translations or definitions. And in this way, this is how most people learn. So I call this learning as a second language, so learning English as a second language, or ESL. But the basic idea is we're trying to get lots of information as quickly as possible. So here is a word in my native language, and now we're going to get a word in English. So if I just use Japanese as an example, I gave this Japanese example actually to this woman I was teaching. Well, I wasn't teaching, but I was translating for her between Japanese and English. But I said, if you learn this way, like let's say we're learning the word English, we maybe do it backwards. So you hear the English word free. And so in Japanese, like you actually have at least two different things where you could feel like the meaning is quite different. So for example, I could say free like jiu, like I could do whatever I want, like having liberty, that kind of thing. Or I could mean free like not costing any money, which is muryo, which is a different thing. So if I'm learning something, I begin with a word in English and then just try to translate it to something in a different language. It's going to be more difficult for me to remember and really understand. So that's why this is the lowest level of that. But the maybe upside is that this is appropriate for people who are just trying to pass a test very quickly. So if you don't care about remembering the information or really understanding it so you can use it fluently, just do this. Okay, yes, Tom knows what's going on. So muryo, like having no price or whatever, but it's different from like jiu, which is freedom to do something. Like you are free to go, get some water or do something yourself rather than waiting for someone else. Okay, so this is what people typically do, and this is what causes that problem. We can draw our little car example again over here. The driver actually knows things at a higher level, and so they're able to understand things and respond fluently while they drive. So if a little kid runs in the middle of the road, then you have to brake or try to go around that kid or do something. You have to think and react quickly to that situation. But if I'm like only learning how to drive, like I push the accelerator and I go forward, that's the only thing I know how to do, I'm going to hit that kid or not be prepared or not know how to deal with that, okay? So when you're just learning with translations and definitions, that can be helpful for understanding general ideas in conversations. Oh, I heard someone use the word free, but I don't know if that means I'm able to do something or like I can do it freely, or free as in no money, okay? So this is what people are normally trying to do. And now let me give you an example of the second thing I recommend. So I don't really recommend this unless you have a test tomorrow and you need to practice for something, just to memorize a bunch of words so that you can say those same things on a test, all right? But if you want to be fluently speaking, then we want to try doing things from number 2. And so this is the kind of thing like stories, where we're making real connections with the vocabulary. So let me give you an example of both of these things with the same word. I'm going to teach you a little bit of Japanese, okay? So I know I'm often giving you English examples, obviously, but I thought this was something that happened recently that I thought was a really interesting thing, and it was a lesson from my wife's mother, so my mother-in-law, teaching my older daughter, Aria, something. So they were talking about, it was just something on TV, and and the word was matsu. Let's see, what was the word exactly? Matsubazue. So matsubazue this is a Japanese word, and I'm just going to translate it for you at first. So I'm going to do the first lowest level of this, which is not very memorable, but I want to give you these levels and help you understand how this works. So if I just give you a translation or a definition, this is going to be less valuable for you, and you will probably forget the word. So matsubazue is crutches. C-R-U. I can't write and think at the same time. C-R-U-T-C-H-E-S. Crutches. So crutches are the things. I'll draw a picture of it over here. So we have a person. Usually they're kind of little wooden things, or they could be plastic, that help you walk when you have maybe trouble with one of your legs. So they typically look like this. It's just some kind of thing for your underarm, and little handle over here, and then something that goes down onto the ground that helps you walk. So these are crutches. So we could have a person here, he's got one hand over here, he's holding that crutch and then holding this crutch over here, and this person has, maybe one leg is okay, but the other leg is broken. So he has a broken leg, maybe he's got a little cast on his foot like that, and he can't walk very well, so he's got crutches. All right, he's using some crutches over here. All right, so that's the name of this thing. So crutches, it's both of these things together. And so I don't know why my mother-in-law thought to highlight this word, but I didn't actually know the word for crutches in Japanese until she taught my daughter this. So I thought it was walking. Yes, so these are just like walking aids. So let's break this down and help you understand it, because this is the example that she used to teach my older daughter. So matsu, if I draw a different picture over here. I'm going to draw a matsu and see if you can tell me what this is, a matsu. I'm going to do my best. I should be okay at being able to draw this. It's a gardening thing. I'm going to draw maybe a not so great picture of it, but okay, any idea what that is? All right. It's a kind of tree. What kind of tree is it, do you think? What does that look like? Maybe you've seen anybody who is a fan of Japanese style design or like Japanese gardens. She'll know what this is. Tom says, what the heck is this? This is a matsu. Matsu. So matsu is a pine tree. And it's a kind of the general, so bonsai means like any kind of tree in a pot, but matsu is a particular kind of tree. So you could actually have a bonsai that's a matsu, but this is the Japanese name. Do I remember the kanji for this? No. I think maybe I do. Matsukana. Somebody let me know if any Japanese are watching this, if I have written this kanji correctly or not. It's obviously not very neat kanji. But so matsu refers to this type of tree, a pine tree with pine needles. Okay? So we've got the first part of this word over here, matsu. So a kind of tree. Yes. All right. So Tom's got that. All right. George has that over there. Matsu equals pine tree. Yes. All right. I'm on the right. We're on the right page. I remembered the kanji. So matsu. I don't know if this is the same thing also in Japanese, in Chinese or not. If that character represents that. But so anyway. So we've got matsu. The next word is ba. Ba. So this is actually for like leaf. Or happa in Japanese, so this is referring to a leaf. But if we look closely at a pine needle, usually they are connected together. So there are different kinds of pine trees. I'm going to zoom in, like if we look at this and like make it look like a much bigger thing, we'll draw it down here. You can see that. So a pine needle usually looks like this. We have one kind of connecting thing, and we've got maybe two needles that are sticking off of that. So if we look really closely at this, we see these different examples. A pine leaf is really needles, but it looks like this. All right. So now we've got pine leaves or pine needles and zue. We would change it from tsue, which just means a cane. So if we have like a typical cane like this, like an old person is holding a cane, or the cane could look like this, some kind of thing. Little walking thing, a cane, so that you can walk. So we've got pine tree needle cane. So it kind of looks like that. And I said, oh, isn't that interesting? So I learned Matsubazue at the same time my younger daughter did, but not because like I got a translation of it. It's because, I understood the story that helped me get a connection to that. So a cane, like C-A-N-E, just like we have a candy cane, the same kind of idea. Candy cane like this. So just something you can hold on to while you're walking. So maybe old people would hold this and it would help them walk. So some people, if they have trouble walking, they use a cane. So we have a matsu, a pine leaf cane, or a pine needle cane. So it's two of these things connected together, and that's where the Japanese comes from. Isn't that interesting? So maybe you don't care about the vocabulary, but hopefully I wanted to give you just like an example of something in a different language that maybe you don't know, but this is something that now you can understand the difference between getting a translation versus actually getting a story or something that really helps you to connect with the vocabulary. Does that make sense? So when you're learning things, like if you want to learn it quickly, then of course, yes, if I just say, hey, tomorrow we're having a test, and the word to remember is matsubazue. Matsubazue. So if I remember that, oh, okay, I can remember that for the test. Maybe I try to think of a way to remember it. But if I really understand the word, I'm going to feel a lot more confident about it. Won't I? All right, so same idea, like we're trying to connect with things and really understand them. And then the last step over here is we've got naturally varied review. So not only just getting a story to help us understand something, we really want to get lots of examples to really feel confident about the vocabulary. All right, because we don't want to just understand it, we want to hear things used in different situations. I think everybody's getting it, everybody understands. This is looking a little bit messy. Let me clean up the board. I just wonder what this is and buy in Japanese. Yeah, sonotori. Yeah, so exactly people understanding what it means by getting a story, but really what we're talking about is connecting with the vocabulary. So not just trying to force it into your brain by repeating something again and again, to really understand what people are talking about. In this point, you own that word. Now you really feel like, wow, I understand, like, ooh, matsubazue. That's like a cool, long-sounding word, but it just means crutches. All right. Now, hopefully, people also understand. I think maybe if some of you did not, if we have crutches for something, we could have a crutch, you know, like I'm maybe just using one, I'm putting it under my arms and helping me walk. So this is a physical example. I'll draw another one of these again, try to draw this a little bit better. Usually there's some kind of hand thing here, and then another part of that goes down, and maybe this, you know, part with a little rubber part on the bottom. So that's a typical crutch. So one by itself, crutch. A crutch. So when we're talking about this, we can extend this idea. If you don't know what a crutch is, now you do, and probably you remember the word, but we can also use it in more figurative ways, like I use maybe something in my life as a crutch to help me, you know, to help me live, or like maybe let's say I'm actually not a very good teacher and someone else is, I have like a special earpiece or something, and people are actually telling me what to do or what to say, like this earpiece or their explanation is a crutch for me. All right, so we take a physical thing like this. Any child could look at this and maybe they hear the word a few times. Oh, this is a crutch. But you could describe anything that's helping someone. Often you will hear people using an example like that, like maybe someone uses, I don't know, like I use my wife as a crutch for, I don't know, times when I need to use some Japanese that I don't know, or something like that. So anytime I'm getting help from another thing, and sometimes this is a negative meaning. So you're like, oh, like I'm using something else as a crutch without trying to do it myself. All right, so that's the idea of a crutch, is like it's helping you. You should be walking by yourself. Maybe you can't, but it has more of a negative meaning like that when we're talking about it for, you know, in general. So if I say like, oh, I'm using this as a crutch, or I like to, I don't know, like do something that's maybe not so good for my health, but I'm using it kind of as a crutch for something else. But those are the kinds of examples you would get from that. I just wanted to add that very quickly about the word crutch. So even if we take something simple like this, usually we can find more interesting ways to use it, and this is the naturally varied review. So we're getting more examples, trying to really deepen our understanding of something and make sure that we really, so that's another good example from Miriam. Don't make crutches out of your excuses. So don't let it like help you even when you should be doing something by yourself, okay? So a crutch. But let me give you one more example. Actually, maybe I'll give you two. How much time have we got? 40, all right, it's already 11 o'clock over here. Let's see how we do. Now, I gave a baseball example before. I thought I would give one more in this video. It doesn't matter if you care about baseball or like baseball or not, because the vocabulary from baseball is used a lot in real life. And so usually when we have a game of, I'm not going to draw this very well here. In the game of baseball, you have a pitcher up here, and then you have the bases out here, and this is called home plate. Home plate. So when you're at home plate, this area over here and this area over here, these are called the batter's boxes. So the batter, so B-A-T-T-E-R, this is the person who holds the baseball bat. So the batter will stand in this box. Here, it's just a flat drawing on the ground, and then the pitcher will throw the ball over here. So when it's your turn to hit, we talk about someone stepping up to the plate. If you've ever heard this expression before, we're not talking about a plate like a dish plate. We're talking about home plate like this. So when a new person steps up, so they're moving forward, they're stepping towards the batter's box over here, so they're stepping up to the plate. So this is the physical use of that. I'm looking at the home plate from the top, but you can imagine looking at it like this if you're the pitcher and I'm trying to hit the ball that you're throwing at me. So I'm standing in the batter's box and I have my bat out here to try to swing and hit the ball. So a person standing here, they are in the batter's box, but as you're walking up, you're going to step up to the plate. So from stepping up, we get this phrasal verb here, to step up to the plate, or just to step up. It just means you are going to take responsibility. You are going to be next to do something, or maybe even the first to do something. But from this example, so this is something easily that you can see, a regular situation, someone is physically stepping up to the plate. So they're walking from over here where all the players are to up here where it's just going to be one person against the pitcher. So the batter against the pitcher, and that's where we have stepping up to the plate. But you could step up in anything in life. Again, the same idea like we talked about with crutches. You could step up when you have a responsibility. Like let's say I'm very young and I have a girlfriend and she gets pregnant. Like I could maybe run away and never see the child again. I would be not taking responsibility for that child. Or I could step up and actually take responsibility for that child. So to step up, it means like you are going to take responsibility. You are going to do that. It's not just the physical moving, like stepping towards something. To step up, you could be taking responsibility. So somebody else might step up or step forward when they want to take responsibility, or they will become a leader or something like that. But that's the basic idea. All right. So what we're doing here, we're trying to understand something, a fluency trigger here, just helping you understand something the same way a native would. Even if you don't know much about baseball, it's okay. But you understand the situation. And then we try to get a few different examples at least. If you hear even more examples, you will feel more confident about it. But when you're telling someone, hey, step up, show some courage, show some responsibility. You'd maybe like you were working on a project, but now you don't, you feel a little bit nervous. Miriam with another a good example, to take on a challenge. So some people might step back. Ooh, I don't want to deal with that. But other people step forward or they step up. But it comes from this kind of idea here. So you're stepping up. Now it's going to be this person's turn or this person's chance to try to hit the ball or become a hero or take responsibility. And so from this idea, we get stepping up for anything. Okay, so very common, very useful phrasal verb, to step up. And you can just tell even someone, hey, step up. Don't be shy. Now it's your chance to be the leader. You could do something. Don't be nervous about that. Accept the challenge. Step up and do that thing, to step up. All right. So as you see how more things are connected and you're able to make these connections and see, oh, it's not just like a physical thing for baseball. We could use that for anything. You could step up in business. You could step up in life. You could step up in school. Anytime where you're going to maybe take responsibility or become a leader in some way. All right, let me give you one more, not related to baseball, but just to show you that this is something you should be spending more time on. So this third level of thing is the more time you spend in getting enough varied review until you really understand things and remove any doubt you have about them, that's what's going to get you fluent. So you don't get fluent just by trying to memorize something for a test, because you don't really understand it very well. And I'll often hear this from learners. Hey, I know a lot of English, but I can't use it very well. I say, well, how well do you know it? Do you know it well enough to translate it, or do you know it well enough to use it in different situations like a native speaker? So yes, it's faster at first. If you're just trying to memorize 10 words and we want to understand these as quickly as possible so that I can, pass a test or whatever, then yes, go ahead and do that. But if you actually want to be able to speak more confidently, then we really want to spend more time, become more familiar, and remove any doubt we might have about vocabulary. Amir says, Teacher Drew, can we have more videos like the one about hand? So I will probably make more of those. So this is the Fluent in 15. But Miriam, if you did not watch it already, I just did another video where we're giving more naturally varied review using this book. So the hand example was another thing where we're talking about like a physical thing. Like, look at this. Here's a hand, and we can talk about it in more detail and describe things that maybe people might not talk about. But it's the same idea of taking a particular thing, like a context or situation, and then focusing on that. All right. So let me give you one last example here. We've got, I think, a few more minutes. Who knows what this thing is over here? Who knows what that is? Does anybody know? I think maybe somebody might know what this is. We'll put a little chain on it too. What is that? An anchor. Look at that. Tom already. Tom is the new teacher for the class. An anchor. Let me put that up here for you. A-N-C-H-O-R. What do we do with an anchor? What does an anchor do? Anyone else? What does an anchor do? What does an anchor do? I'll give you a moment, see if anybody can tell me when we use an anchor. Yes, we got, let's see, a couple other examples. Well, Tom, you can do it. Remember, you can focus. That's what we do. All right, I'll be quick about this. I know people want me to do all the hard work for you. I know. So an anchor, I'll draw we'll leave this one here, but I'll draw another example. So let's say we have a boat over here. If you don't know what this is already, we'll have the bottom of the sea, and we've got our waves over here. So the anchor is a little thing that goes down here. It kind of catches on the bottom. That's why it has these little hooks. It's like a giant fish hook. But yes, it holds the boat in place. So that's why we would not be just floating around. We drop this heavy anchor on the ground, and it stops the boat from moving around. So this is an anchor. All right. Now we could also have an anchor where we have an anchor let's say I want to put a picture. I want to hang a lovely picture on the wall, and so I take a hammer or something, and I'm going to put this nail in the wall up here. I could put actually a stronger thing within the wall that is the anchor for that, the anchor. All right, but you get the idea. So it stops the ship from moving. It's anything that's trying to hold something in place. All right, so it's like the strong thing. We're trying to hold something in place. How else or where else might we use this word? It's kind of like a brake. Yes, you could think about it like that. So the boat might float around a little bit, but it's not really going anywhere if we have the anchor. So anchors away. Look at that. We're going to drop the anchor. To drop anchor or drop the anchor. That means we're going to stay in one place for a little bit, to drop the anchor. Now, and we have an anchor like this. We could also have an anchor like my grandfather is the anchor in my family, or the anchor for my family. So there might be other people have problems, but my grandfather, he's always strong. He always knows what he's doing, and people come to him for advice. He becomes the anchor. He becomes the anchor for the family. Yes, hope is an anchor for the soul. Yes, you could think about it like that, to anchor the soul. Another example, this is a very common one as well. If you go to malls, so like a department store in the United States, you might have, I'm going to show you from the top, you might have like some long buildings and different stores like this. So each one of these is a different store, and people can walk around and go to these stores. But sometimes, or actually usually, you will have an anchor store. So this is the anchor store. So the anchor store would be like a really large or very popular or very big store that usually people come to the mall for this big thing right here. So like years ago, like Sears was an anchor store at like particular malls. All right. So it's the same kind of thing. Like the anchor store is the store that holds the rest of that thing in place. So to answer Ilder's question, no, I don't mean physically, like that's not where people come from. It's like if you imagine like one person in your family, he's usually in a good mood, or she is in a good mood. She's kind of the strong one, or the one that, some problem could happen, but she still feels very good. This person would be the anchor for the family. So everyone else is, getting worried about things, but we still have the anchor over here to help us and to guide us and to lead us, that kind of thing. Okay, so the anchor for a family, or the anchor for a company or something like that, you could have a group of people, and one of them is the anchor. One of them is like the source of the confidence and the stability in that situation. All right, so just like we have an anchor like this, you can see how we get different examples that help us really understand the vocabulary, not just trying to memorize it or get a definition or a translation. Okay, is this making sense? Hopefully it is, because this is very powerful. If you apply this in your learning, whether you're learning with me or you're trying to do stuff by yourself, it doesn't matter. But the more examples you get until you really feel confident about something, that's what's going to help you speak, without a doubt. All right, you guys excited? Hopefully you are. So when we talk about why people are unable to speak, even if they know a lot of English, they probably just don't know that very well. That's the real problem. All right, so it's usually because they've got translations, or they didn't really spend a lot of time. See, that's another good example. The backbone of something. So the backbone, it's the supporting thing, the thing that doesn't move. So even if the boat moves a little bit, the anchor is not going anywhere. Okay. So the core of something, or so in the example of the family, it's the unmoving thing that other things might move around. So while other people may be getting people upset or something like that, you are okay. In Portuguese, the âncora, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But yes, so it's the thing that like holds everybody together, just like the anchor in the wall that I use to put my screw or my nail in. That's holding things together. That is the anchor. So it's important. The reason I'm taking time to teach this way is because when you really understand it, you will feel confident about using it. Okay, so that's the whole point of taking time like this. So at first, it seems like, wow, we're taking a lot of time just to focus on one word or one phrase or something. But then you don't forget it, and we can start connecting that with more vocabulary, and that's how you get fluent even faster. So at first, it seems like this is a slower way of learning, but it's not. It actually saves you time, and your learning accelerates over time because you can understand more, you can get fluent faster, and you don't forget what you learned. It's not really a very smart thing to do if you get you learn something and then forget it very quickly. Miriam asks, does food courts and Whole Foods is like the anchor store? Food courts and Whole Food. Well, if they're like, if you're talking about like Whole Foods as like the name of the store, typically Whole Foods would be an anchor store for a mall. It's a larger thing that many people know. So typically a large thing. People know the store, and there might be other stores in here in the same mall that people don't know, like less famous or new businesses or something like that. So these new businesses hope, hey, like if people come, to the Anchor store, maybe they will come to my store also. So that's what the Anchor is for. So even though these other stores might change, people know, okay, like Whole Foods or whatever is like the good thing we're coming for. So that's the Anchor. So within the store itself, I mean, maybe you might have some like Anchor kind of things. Yeah, Gravity is a similar idea. But that's the idea of an anchor. An anchor. So something that is holding other things or supporting other things. It's the important big thing, the thing that doesn't move while other things might move around it. But you don't understand that if you just get a translation of something. The rotor or anchor is a revolving part inside the electric motor. Well, yes, if you're like inside a boat, you might have the motor that actually lifts the anchor up and down. Yes, you could say anchor yourself by my side, or like you can like be connected to me in some way. So if you look actually on a boat, you've got tiny little kind of shells. These are called barnacles, and a barnacle anchors itself onto the side of the ship in the same way. So you have to clean all the barnacles off the other side. A barnacle kind of looks like, it's like a kind of like a rock looking flower thing. It's an animal, a barnacle. Let's see, barnacle, B-A-R-N-I-C-L-E. It's either barn, I think with an I, barnacle. I think someone can check that for me, barnacle. But these little things here, they are anchored onto the side of the ship, the barnacle. All right. But again, as we get the naturally varied review, we feel more confident that we understand the word. So we feel more confident about using it, understanding it, everything. That's where fluency comes from. So right now, you're not saying anything, but you're actually becoming more confident and fluent by understanding the language better. But just notice you're doing this one piece at a time. Like we can make a video about one book and hopefully understand the book better and learn a lot of this vocabulary and use it in other ways if we understand it. But the point is focused review about a particular thing. All right, it will actually get you fluent much faster. All right, it looks like we've gotten through this. How long did we go? Oh, that was 60 minutes, not bad. All right, so we got in 2 videos today. If you did not watch the previous video about this, so I give another example of naturally varied review in that video. That's the 15 minutes or fluent, fluent in 15. So go back and watch that video. But this is the basic idea. So the more you can connect with the vocabulary you're learning, even if it takes a little bit more time at first, you will feel more confident because you actually discovered the meaning of things for yourself. And then you start asking questions like, oh, I wonder if we could do this. Like, does this mean an anchor to something else? Yes, it does. So as you start thinking more like a native, you start using the vocabulary more like a native as well. Isn't that cool? All right. All right, let me go back, check any final comments. I think people are maybe speaking to each other over here, but I think, let's see. Okay, yeah, I think everybody's getting it though. If there are no more questions, then look at that. We made it to the end. Catherine says, I really admire you. Well, that's very kind. I'm glad you do. If I've been helpful, hopefully you're speaking better. But let's see. Miriam says, what is the plastic balloon thing around the ship when it gets to the pier? A plastic balloon thing? Ah, you're talking about a buoy. A buoy. And I'm going to make... buoy, I think. Let me make sure I'm spelling that correctly too. It's B-U-O-I. That's right. Excuse me. A buoy. Buoy. So this is the thing on the side of the boat over here. It kind of looks like a little. It could be plastic or it could be a rubber thing to make sure that the boat doesn't hit into other things like that. But that's called a buoy. A buoy. So a buoy, you could also think about that in more figurative ways as well. Like we have to maybe keep some distance or protect myself. Like I'm going to make a kind of mental buoy or something so I don't deal with other people, something like that. A buoy. A dumper bumper, I guess you could use that. You could use bumper as well to stop it from bumping into other things. A buoy. But hopefully people get the idea. Again, this is easy to do, and the faster you can get this, the faster you can understand things, the faster you get fluent. So if you'd like my help to do that, you can click on the link in the description below this video to learn more about Fluent for Life. Frederick as well teaches in the same way. You can also learn about that in the link. But whether you learn with me or not, this is how you really should be doing things if you want to become a fluent speaker. It will guaranteed improve your English because it's just helping you understand the language more like a native. And when you eliminate any doubt you have, you'll feel much more confident about speaking. You don't need to spend a lot of time speaking with people, but you do need to spend more time getting more information that really eliminates any doubt you have. It's really the doubt that stops you from speaking. All right, illustrators often use old tires. Yeah, yes, and that would be tire, T-I-R-E, a tire. All right, hopefully everyone has enjoyed this. If you have, do click the like video and please share this with anyone else who might be interested in learning this way, who wants to actually speak fluently. And then I will see you in the next video. It should be whenever that is, I guess next week. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye.